Hey everybody, this is Dan, the Real Estate Man, putting the real back in real estate, Mr. Multifamily Conversion himself. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you guys, did something fun, something enjoyable, and hope you're getting your week off to a great start. This is Money Mondays. Money Mondays is where I created Money Mondays because I wanted to make the conversation around money just a lot more transparent, and also wanted to talk about my path and my journey from blue collar employee to real estate investor, and what that whole process looked like, and all the things that I learned along the path. But before we get into that, I want to let everybody know we're having the Bragg Expo is coming up on September 21st. I'm going to show you guys what we got going on here. It's the Bragg Wealth Expo. It's our first expo. All right, so we have like some of the best lineup that you want to see when it comes to an expo. A lot of these faces you will know. A lot of these folks I know you follow. This is just going to be jam-packed full of information. We have 7 or 8 panels, everything from goal setting and mindset building, getting deals and wholesaling, business credit and financing. We also have rehab, fix and flips. We have a panel of lenders, right? Because we need to know where to get the money from. We have a panel on multifamily, and we have a panel on property and wealth management, which is a great segue. One Lila said, "I'll be there." That's what's up. Listen, if you have not grabbed your tickets, grab your tickets, right? So these are people who are certified, right? Really, really out here doing this business. This is a great opportunity to learn from people who are actively involved in the business, share their experiences, share their perspectives, and for less than the cost of a good dinner. So right now you get access to all these folks, all of the great networking, all of that for only $97. We also have some vendor spots if you are a vendor, and this actually brings us to our guest tonight, who will be one of our panelists, Miss Kim Babb. I've known Kim now for, I say 5-6 years. Kim is a phenomenal woman. She's done so much in the corporate world, and now as a full-time real estate investor. So super excited to bring Kim up, and Kim has one of the wildest, at least to me, one of the wildest things about Kim is I think she's gone something like almost 30 years, and she'll let me know if I'm right or wrong about that, but I believe 30 years with no evictions. I just had 2 evictions last week. So I'm super excited to talk to Kim and hear about her story, and what she.
Hey Dan, can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you good. How's things going?
Awesome. Things are going amazing.
Great. Yeah, I'm always following you on social media, and you are all over the place, helping folks out, and a part of a lot of boards. I think the last thing I saw, you were at a ULI event. I think was that in Chicago or in New York?
No, it was actually last week in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I have been invited and given the opportunity to serve on the national and global board for the Women's Leadership Initiative Committee of the Urban Land Institute. So, we're building policy strategies and initiatives to include and make sure women are included in the real estate industry.
Nice. Very nice. And I'd like to mention also, Kim is a board member of BRAG, the Black Real Estate Alliance Group, has been just a great help there. Like I said, always brings, so much experience from your past, life in the corporate world and with what you have going on here. One of the things that I mentioned, and I'm sure I got the year wrong, but can you tell everybody about the record that you have? And when I say this, I'm constantly trying to learn. Like I said, I was down in eviction court twice just last week. So what's your claim to fame, and what's the time frame now?
Yeah, so it is a 40-year 0% eviction rate. I heard you mention 30 earlier. Like, don't shave off the decade. No, it's been 40. It's been 40 years, and we have not had an eviction in our 40-year career of property management and investing. I liken evictions to divorce.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I just celebrated our 40th, not only wedding, but our business anniversary this year. So being married with someone, staying married, married for 40 years, friends for 43, it takes work, right? And nobody wants to divorce. So I liken evictions to divorce. I never want to experience it. So I work really hard to keep that out of my playbook.
Well, I would say that I have unfortunately I have been divorced way too many times in this business. So love to get some of the insights there. But can you give us just a background about who you are and your path to this full-time investor status?
Sure, sure. I am so blessed and excited to be here. Number one, for those of you on the live or the replay who have not met me or crossed paths yet, my name is Kim Avant Babb. I'm from Philly. I claim being from Philly. I sleep in South Jersey for the last 30 years, but I'm from Philly. And from a corporate perspective, professional career perspective, it spans many different industries from procurement. I did procurement at the University of Penn for many, many years, cut my teeth and just sharpen my skills around, contracts, negotiations. Worked in the civil rights industry for SEPTA as well as the state of New Jersey. Again, advocating for the inclusion of Black and brown and women business owners to get those contracts. Spent the last 23 years working for the state of New Jersey as Chief Strategy Officer for the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority. Had a tremendous amount of opportunity, flexibility there to work on the ground in urban cities across the state with stakeholders, strategizing and planning how they wanted to redevelop their commercial quarters. Many of those urban cities in New Jersey were still devastated from the riots of the 60s. So our authority, or that authority, was charged with, attracting financing and resources to rebuild those commercial corridors. And so I went from community galvanizing to underwriting multi-million-dollar deals to the last 13 years, building, managing, and operating the Redevelopment Training Institute, which still operates, because in many of those neighborhoods we went into, from mayors to city council reps to J&Q Public, while they wanted to see their cities rebuilt, they really didn't understand the process of redevelopment. So we started the Training Institute to teach any and everybody about that process. So that's my professional side. Simultaneous to that career, my husband and I were building our small but mighty single family real estate portfolio. Started in the neighborhood where he grew up, which is Graduate Hospital in Philadelphia. For those of you who are not familiar, is one of the first ring neighborhoods of Center City. We were fortunate that he lived there, and we saw opportunity very early. back in the 90s and start picking up properties and leveraging our 9 to 5s as silent investors to build our real estate portfolio. And 4 decades later, I was able to fire my 9 to 5 4 years ago. My husband was able to fire his last year, and
Nice.
we're just blessed to be walking in our victory garden, as I say. And I started our education arm, which is Legacy Real Estate Consulting, to really pour out into the community the experience, the systems, and the practices in property management that we have learned along the way.
Got you. Are you still there?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you for some reason. I can no longer see you, which is
I
weird.
can,
But can you see me?
I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened with my camera, but it's all good. So can you talk about I mean, that's a great history, and I'm actually interested in the civil rights history because I've talked to you many times. I think it's the first time I heard you mention that you were involved with SEPTA and the civil rights. So what was that about?
Sure. So while I was at the University of Penn, I managed their um, con- vendor contractor outreach program to include more women and minorities into the contracting opportunities at the University of Penn. We're talking billions of dollars. Penn is the largest private employer in the city of Philadelphia, at least back then. SEPTA saw what I was doing, invited me over there. So there is a Department of Civil Rights at SEPTA whose primary focus is because SEPTA is a quasi-federal agency, right?
Mhm.
So in the Department of Civil Rights, they're charged with certifying that you are a minority or woman-owned business, right? And then after identifying and qualifying you, putting requirements of participation on the major contracts and projects that SEPTA does.
No.
Okay. So, yeah. So if they need to purchase, I don't know, phones, or if they need to, order railroad ties, anything for SEPTA's operations,
Mhm.
there is a minority participation stipulation on it. So I was on the team that did the certifications and went to those major contracting meetings and said to those major, companies that were bidding on SEPTA contracts, while you can bid, but you need to come with a 20% minority participation. If it was asbestos, if it was, demolition, if it was building, anything, that's what the department, that's one of the roles of the Department of Civil Rights at SEPTA. And I took that skill set and then went to the state of New Jersey. I started in their Department of Commerce in the Department of Civil Rights, doing the same thing for the entire state.
Wow. Oh, that's really impressive. And I know you said that your first property was your husband's, I guess, was your husband's family property? Is that what you're saying?
So, no, our first property was our primary
Oh,
home that we bought in
okay.
Logan that we
Okay.
still own.
Wow.
Um, yeah, we still own. We bought that in 1984. So, yeah. So the first investment property was a gift that keeps giving.
Mm-hmm.
And every opportunity I have, I give kudos and flowers to my mother-in-law. Because when I met my husband, like prior to meeting him, my parents typically owned our primary home. But it wasn't until I met him and his mom was an investor,
Mm-hmm.
just a natural real estate investor. I can't tell you why she got involved in real estate,
Mm-hmm.
but she was a college educated factory sewer.
Mm. Okay.
I'm gonna just let that rest for a minute. She was a
Yeah.
college educated factory sewer in Center City, Philadelphia.
Mm.
But she was a saver and she was very strategic in how she spent her money. She bought real estate. So when I met my husband, he was completing the renovation of one of her triplexes in Queen Village. And so that was our date night kind of thing. And one thing led to another, and we started managing her multi-family properties, just, skinning our knees and cutting our teeth, figuring, the game out, because it's not a bad deal when your mom says, if you finish the property, then you can rent it out and keep the rents. I mean, like,
Wow.
what motivation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So fast forward 10 years, after we bought our permanent home, my mother-in-law, she just kept nagging us. You all need to start investing. And I mean, we were partying on the weekends. We were digging a deep hole of debt, until she came across 2 properties in Graduate Hospital, and made a deal that, unbeknownst to my husband, she had saved $14,000 for his inheritance. And so when I say that, sometimes I think of like the comments out in the stratosphere that some people are, born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They ain't got to work hard. Their parents, But here was a woman who was a factory sewer that just had a very frugal life, had a knack to buying real estate, and the wherewithal to save and put away money for her kids for when she died. So anyway, she gave us that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just out of curiosity, because that's again, obviously I wasn't around. This story just sounds not like a normal story you hear of, a black woman in that time. Did you ever speak to her about the motivation? What made her go out there? Because I can only imagine there was a lot of naysayers. Number one, she was, black, and then being a woman, all these different things that I'm sure a ton of people that would have been like, oh, why do you even want to do that? Did you ever speak to her about what motivated her to do that, at all?
Unfortunately, I did not have that opportunity. I guess my mindset when she was alive just wasn't there to be so inquisitive, to get inside her psyche and see what motivated her. Now, I do know that her motivation for buying properties was because she was from Florida, right? And families migrated, and she migrated to the north. She migrated to Philadelphia, and I don't know if she was the first one, to land in the Philadelphia or not. I know she had a brother in Baltimore, but back then families, your family members would stay with you for a minute till they got themselves together, when they came north. And I know she housed a lot of her relatives, even in her single family home where I met him and he lived. And those multi-families, like she would have family members staying there until they got on their feet. So I don't know if that was her motivation. In addition to, people in the neighborhood got wind that, Mr. Stell bought properties. And if you remember back then, like back in the 70s, like you could buy a dollar house in Philly. And so between, I don't know if she brought dollar houses, but people in the neighborhood knew that, Mrs. Stell brought houses, right? And so if somebody was going to lose a house, they had back taxes. I don't know. I don't know where she got this from, but like she was the bank. Seriously, like she was the bank for her family. And she was the financial revolutionary. She was the first generation of that family that I knew of that was a financial revolutionary, and she forced us by gifting us that $14,000 to buy our first investment property in 1996 that we still own in Graduate Hospital.
Like that's such a blessing. I mean, I would love to. I mean, wow, if she was around, just to ask her, because I'm sure all of the, just the times are just against her doing anything like that, and the expectations and everything that she went through. I would love to hear the stories about what that was actually like, because I think that could be a motivation to a lot of folks now that believe that there's something stopping them. It's like, listen, this was, I imagine she was buying homes 50, 60 years ago. right?
Oh,
And you said she was a sewer in the factory,
yeah.
right? So that's not a ton of money, and she found a way to get that done. So there's really no excuse, right? Especially now with access to like information, access to people like you and all that. But I don't want to get off track. But I just love to hear those stories because it's just not stories that we hear enough to just let you know that that there were people getting busy when it was much more difficult and probably much more obvious issues to really try to stop you. So you did mention mindset and how you didn't have the mindset at that time. One of the things I do talk about with Money Monday, because I believe personally, mindset is the most important thing that you have to work on, even before you get into all the financial pieces and the strategies and all of that. What has changed most from your mindset when it comes to on the business side of things, from when you first started to now? Were there certain things that really jumped out at you that helped change your mindset?
Hmm. I would say yes.
Mhm.
And three in particular. Interesting that you should ask that question. Because when my mother-in-law, just I call it the motherly nudge, right?
Mhm.
There were a series of situations that happened after that that really forced my husband, who's my business partner, and I to think about things differently and become more aggressive. After we acquired that first property. One was the year after we acquired that first investment property, we were blessed to come up with a strategy and be blessed. I'm gonna put that first and have the planners line up to build a home in New Jersey, right? And we were motivated because the neighborhood, I mean, after having children, like when you have children, like that motivates you to make decisions differently, okay?
Sure.
And we lived in Logan, the neighborhood was declining, and we looked at each other and said, we need to get our sons out of here, right? So a year after buying an investment property, we had a home built in New Jersey. Both of our careers were pretty stable, and then I got laid off. And
Mhm.
when you get laid off, it ain't personal, it's business. But it's a reality that, your financial stream stops.
Mhm.
Either temporarily, partially, or totally, right? So that was one. And then later on in life, my husband got laid off. And we then also said, we have children. Um, we're encouraging them to pursue higher education. How are we going to pay for it? Okay, so that's two. Getting laid off. How are we going to pay for higher education? And then number three, we had the foresight to look ahead at, hopefully being blessed to live into our retirement years. What happens if Social Security is not there?
Mhm.
How are we going to support our lifestyle? So those were the three motivations for a mindset shift. And
Can I, can I,
with that first,
can I ask a quick question?
sure.
Was this these thoughts, was this something that you just guys had a group of friends that were just having this conversation, or is this just an internal conversation you all had? Like, was there some sort of outside influence for this, or is just you just realized these different things that you had to do?
I think it was a combination of all of what you just said, in addition to our careers, right? So when I think about, as a team, like I'm just going to speak from our experience. Like when you're married, you're in business. Like hopefully you have a partner that doesn't think like you, but but thinks, right? So my husband and I met on the job. We're both artists, right? That's our formal educational foundation. So we have that innate ability to see things that don't exist and then create them, right?
Mhm.
And we've done that throughout our lives. And so we're readers, we're researchers, and going back to the multifamilies that my husband, renovated back in the day, like he's a self-taught craftsman. He he mentioned this to one of my coaching clients the other day of how he taught himself. This is pre YouTube. Home Depot had a yellow book. It was about 3 inches thick that you could learn anything, plumbing,
Remember those? Yeah.
that's how he taught himself: plumbing, electricity, carpentry, everything. And so both of us were just always hungry for knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
that's number one. Number two, we were managing these multifamily units, came across HAPCO, right? So that's community. That was one of our first real estate communities. DIG was very much a collaborator with HAPCO. We started going to the DIG summits and workshops and conferences, started meeting people and learning different concepts around real estate and property management.
Mm-hmm.
And that just snowballed into, addressing our personal life challenges of raising kids, going into debt, tired of, refinancing to get out of debt and then digging debt back again. At some point we said, we really got to stop this. We have to do something differently. And that's part of the mindset shift. And then being motivated by being laid off, how we going to pay for college, and what happens if Social Security is not here. We started making sacrifices, getting focused, and being disciplined about our spending and our investing.
Yeah, it's interesting how things that at the moment, at the time rather, seem to be very very, I won't you say negative, but difficult. So nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants to get laid off or whatever the case is. But if that didn't happen, maybe you don't push yourself. Maybe you don't get outside your comfort zone. For me personally, it seems like every time something happens that at the moment seems like somewhat of a negative or makes me uncomfortable, it's pushing me out of something and pushing me on to something else. Have you noticed that in your own life, or have you had that experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. So I'll respond to that by sharing a quote that I recently saw, because I'm a work in progress. I started playing tennis at 60 years old. My mom, who's 85, who's playing tennis most of her, middle age and elderly life, said, "Why do you wait till you're 60 to start?" But it's better to start late than never. And so I'm watching the Cincinnati Open right now. I don't know if anybody else is into tennis, but there was a quote I just seen before I came down by Billie Jean King, which says, "Pressure is a privilege."
Mm-hmm.
Pressure is a privilege. So many times when we're faced with adversity and change, we are forced to either fight, flee, or just die from fear. And so I've had a number of situations in my life, from physical challenges to being laid off, to dealing with psychological warfare in the corporate space, to having a son in the military deployed, to another country. So it's so many different ways that life will be lifing, if you will. But my spiritual foundation, over the years has really grounded me to know that there's a power higher than me. Number one. Number two, that higher power has given me life, and it's up to me to figure out how to run the business of me incorporated. So, I'm constantly pushing and pulling and striving, and then pouring out. That's where I am right now in my chapter of life. I've embraced the adage recently of learn, earn, and return. Learn, earn, and return. Like basically, we earn based on what we've learned. All of the career path that I mentioned earlier, I was blessed to be able to earn and bring, because I brought value to those companies and corporations, right? And the more we learn and educate ourselves in whatever room and space, we're usually compensated because there's value associated with our presence and our perspective and our voice. Where I am now in my life is, I want to return that into the community through everything that I'm doing. My calendar right now, I don't know how I worked a 9 to 5 and ran 2 other companies based on what I'm doing now, which is a lot of volunteering. I volunteer with SCORE,
Hmm.
which is a mentorship program that helps small business owners wherever they are in their journey. I volunteer with Urban Land Institute. I'm writing books and journals to pour my knowledge onto the pages so that I leave a legacy of information for somebody else to grow from.
Yeah, I think ultimately, to me, that's what life is about, right? And, having a passion, but also a purpose. There we go. Having a purpose, and being able to give that information to other people to help them get that leg up. Right. It was one of the reasons why I created Bragg. I tell people that because I had a very difficult time trying to find people that would educate me that looked like me. And quite frankly, a lot of people just turned me down flat. And I was like, man, if I ever wrap my mind around this thing, I won't do this to somebody else. I'm going to find a way to give back. And I don't know about you. I feel pretty certain because I've been around you. There's nothing like giving people information and kind of seeing that light switch go off, right? Giving them that like that out of that glimmer of hope, or giving them that idea like, okay, this is something that is possible. Even going back to your mother-in-law, even seeing you speak about her. I mean, that's big. I mean, I can feel that, and that's a legacy. Even more to me, and maybe I'm sure to you, even more than a physical property, is that example, and letting you know that that is possible. Because without that, who knows, right? I'm sure you would have had a great life. That had without. But just all of the beyond the money, look at all the people that you've touched, that you've met. I talk about that even with me working at SEPTA, which I don't knock jobs at all. I had a really good job. I was making great money, but I would have never had the opportunities. I would have never had the chance to influence other people, that I like how I do now. So I think for me, that's one of the greatest parts of this journey. I mean, the money part is great, all the opportunities, but I definitely love the giving back part most. It feels like the most purposeful part of it to me personally.
I agree, and for me, what's fulfilling is to have the blessing and the ability, I say, to stand on my heels and look back in my life and see how each step and each chapter prepared me for the next chapter, right? It's amazing. From the time that I was a teenager, I was an ambassador of a girls' club. I was an ambassador, a representative of a girls' club when I was a teenager. And most of my career, I've been an advocate. I've been an ambassador. I've been a representative. I've been inside the corporation being the voice of those on the outside
Mhm.
up until I retired, and then educating those with less information and knowledge about the process. So I'm continuing that in my victory garden, as I call it. I'm not retired. If you look at my calendar, it's just like all over the place, because freedom, I never felt freedom until 4 years ago when I fired my 9 to 5. I never felt real 120% freedom. It just blew
Mhm.
my mind. It took me probably 4 or 6 months to decompress from the psychological restrictions
Mhm.
that I've experienced since I was 15, 16 years old, working for somebody else.
Mhm.
And then having the final part of my career, 2.5 decades working for state government, there's a lot of restrictions around that with ethics and movement and permissions. So to go from that, like somebody opened the cage and I've been flying high for the
Yeah.
last 4 years. So people have
Out there
seen me
soaring.
and watched
We see
me.
you, Kim.
I'm telling you, like
You are out there soaring, and
the
we
only
and we.
thing that's going to me down is when they throw the dirt on the grave. I'm be out here just like doing, what I want to do, why I want to do it, and when I want to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's a blessing. It's one of the things I talk about a lot. Is that I hope everybody gets to experience once in their life is just like freedom. Again, a lot of the focus is on the money, but ultimately the money part to me should be so you can gain the freedom. Because money for money's sake is kind of like, well, what's the point? At some point, you have everything you need. You're just buying more stuff. But freedom, which is one of the things I talk about all the time. I'm able to do things with my kids. I'm able to go on the school trips. It's kind of funny because a lot of the events where you see a lot of the moms at, they're so used to seeing me because I'm normally the one there because my wife still works. I'm there. I'm at those events because I don't know. I just feel like I want my kids to look back and be like, daddy was really there. And also see the benefit of, owning your own business because then you can own your own time. I definitely want to, spend some time because again, I know I was off by a whole decade, but 40 plus years of no evictions. And I know that you like one of my quotes I said a long time that being a landlord is a skill set, something that I say a lot. I truly believe it. I'm still working on that skill set. You have seen to really hone that skill set. Is there some high level kind of tips? And just to let everybody know, if you don't, that Kim is going to be speaking this Wednesday for Bragg strategies for a successful property management. There's going to be some great information. So if you have not registered for this event, and this one is free, there's no reason why you shouldn't be at this one. We made this one free. We understand how important it is, especially if you're in Philly. But even if you're not in Philly, just buying the property is not the final goal. You have to manage the asset. Without managing the asset, it's not going to be helpful. It's not going to give you the freedom that Kim and I are now talking about. But can you kind of walk us through that? What that process has been like, or some things that you've learned that's giving you a 40-year track record of no evictions?
Right, right. And I'm certainly not going to, go granular because you got to come on
Sure.
the 21st and you got to come to the Bragg Expo. But one concept that, I tout out there is the MSRP formula. The MSRP formula is so important as a foundation when it comes to real estate investing and property management. And it's not the retail manufacturer suggested retail price. That's not what it is. The MSRP formula focuses on mindset. We talked about that, in this conversation because it's really important. Buying, flipping, rehabbing, that's the sexy part of real estate investing upfront. But what's your mindset? Like, what is your psychology as an individual and as an investor? I think, being, looking internally and really asking yourself that question, standing in the mirror and having that conversation, like, what's my motivation or what is my character? What's my integrity as a person? Seriously, because who you are as a person is more important than your business.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are as a person is more important than your business because
I was glad you didn't say that again.
who you are as an individual and a person is more important than your business and your investments into real estate because it's going to shine through.
Yes.
And how you interact with contractors, with your tenants, with your team. So I think one needs to be very honest about that and really wrap your arms around your mindset. I ran into at some expo an investor one time. She had a number of properties, and she doesn't self-manage. She has a property manager because she said, I don't like dealing with people. And she's the head, I don't like dealing with people. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. That's good that you know that, but you got to deal with your property manager. Like, you got to deal with somebody. But to say I don't like people and I don't like dealing with people was just, reflection of part of her mindset and her psychology.
And it sounds like a very fixed mindset, right? Because I think we all have things that we gravitate to a little bit more easily. Some people are more extroverted, some people are not. But when you say I am, like when you make those kind of statements, you're not even giving yourself room to grow or to get better at it. It's just like, this is what I am, and this is the thing. And it's like, no, you can get better. I mean, you may not be naturally as good as someone. That's what they love people, and they love interacting and and having conversations with folks. But you can get better. So I think that goes to mindset too. Is that having those fixed mindsets.
But and I agree with you, but also having that self-reflection, and the actual word is not coming to me right now, but that self-reflection. For example, I have been in the marketplace interacting with individuals in a customer service position who should not be in customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their whole demeanor, their vibe, their energy says to me, this is not the right space for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be if you work on it and really hone your skills and understand, what shortcomings that you have, and the fact that you're dealing with the public. So, so mindset is very important in the MSRP formula. The second is skill set. And I quote Dan Harvey all the time. Landlord is a skill set, landlord is a skill set, and it takes a variety of tenets and skills to really be proficient in it. And if you don't have those skills, like organizational skills, follow through skills, interpersonal skills, diplomacy, like, there's a whole bunch of skills that you need to be proficient in it. If you don't have those skills, if you can delegate, to individuals who have those skills, or you can hone your skills by educating yourself, getting a coach, reading books, going to YouTube, fine. But skill set is second in the MSRP formula. The third is resources, right? I pray every day. I pray every single day to be resourceful, not only myself, but for my children, my village, and my family. Because being resourceful means that if I don't know it, like, I have the ability, I have the, I just have the know-how. I know where to get it. The whole 6 degrees of separation. Sometimes it's not 6 degrees of separation. It might be 2 degrees of separation to get what it is that you need in order to meet your goals and your objectives. So to be resourceful is critical in this space. Maintenance repairs, something goes wrong. We were on vacation, and if you self-manage, anybody in the audience self-manages, if you don't have a maintenance team, it never fails. when we go away somewhere, something always happens, right? We get a phone call, and we got a phone call recently. We were on a family vacation, and a tenant called. They had an issue, and we were able to offer them 3 options: 1, 2, 3. And they ended up taking the third option. But that's being resourceful versus saying, not answering the phone, or putting them on hold until I get back because I'm not there. But being resourceful to have some options to address their needs. And then last in the MSRP formula is, what's your plan? What's your plan? Be it short term, mid-range and long-term plan, as it relates to you incorporated, as it relates to your business incorporated. Take some time, push the pause button, and really think strategically on what it is that you want. Identify some goals, create some tactics to implement to work your plan. I was fortunate to learn how to play chess at a very early age. As a teenager, as a kid, there was a guy in our neighborhood who was a paraplegic, and we just connected. We played chess all the time, and it just taught me and gave me, the mindset to think strategically. I'm always thinking 2, 3, 4 moves ahead. And I was reading a book one time on the human body, and I was reading about the brain, and landed on the prefrontal cortex and the function of the prefrontal cortex of the brain. The purpose is to think ahead, really, to think strategically, to look around. I'm like, dang on it, I have an overdeveloped prefrontal cortex. Like, that really is what drives me,
Yeah.
And so, what's your plan? I'm always thinking about the what ifs. So the MSRP formula, I think, is a great foundation for someone, pondering and wondering how they can be successful. I think it starts with you as an individual first, your mindset, your skill set, what your resources are, and what your plan is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, just the game that Kim just gave there, I mean, that was awesome. And what I'm hearing from that is a lot of what I talk about is number one, big in business, but you don't see it all the time, is having integrity. It opens so many doors, right? And so that when people meet you, they say, "Oh yeah, I've heard about you." Maybe they haven't, but at least if they have, it's good things, right? It's things that are positive. That you have to network. You have to get out and meet other people. You cannot do this thing alone, right? And there's no extra reward for it, right? I think sometimes people think like there's some extra reward that you get. Well, I did it from the month. I did it by myself. There's nothing extra there. You have to get the information, right? You have to get the information, and you have to be disciplined to actually use that information. And the another big point is you have to have a plan, right? It's like trying to get somewhere with having no map or like no direction, no Google Maps, nothing. You're just going to walk out the door and somehow by happenstance wind up where you want to go. And that's unfortunately how most people live their lives, right? Just going from one thing to the next and so busy hustling or whatever the case is, they never sit down and say, hey, what am I actually trying to do? So again, for everybody, this Wednesday, the 21st from 7 to 9 p.m., Bragg is going to be holding an event. Kim's going to be there. We're going to be talking about landlording and strategies for your property management for managing your assets is super, super important. Doesn't matter if you're in Philly or outside of Philly, but especially if you're in Philly, you need to understand what these rules are. You need to understand how to operate. It's super, super important. And it's what happens after all of the, what we call sexy stuff, right? All of the, I flipped it, but I rehabbed this, I did. No. You said, yeah, yeah. That's what you have to manage the asset so you can actually make some money. So I think this is going to be a great event, and I'm definitely looking forward to what you have to say. Well, what are you and your husband doing now? And what's here? Are you guys focusing on the educational part more, growing the portfolio, or managing what you have? What's the goals now?
All of the above. I get pleasure, number one, just watching him sleep and get rest.
You know what, man, Kim? That's a dope thing to hear. That's a dope thing to hear.
Well, let me give some context. So my husband retired from SEPTA 20 years. And even prior to SEPTA, he always worked at night, right? and never really got a full 8 hours sleep, especially at septic, because he worked overnight, and that can affect your health. Um, getting a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So I just really prayed hard that he got to his milestone of retiring so that he can just rest and relax. And that's what he's doing. He retired last March. He's playing tennis like, 5 days out the week and just doing whatever he wants to do. But we've been traveling. We've been doing a lot of traveling since he retired. Maintaining our portfolio, looking at some opportunities right now. We just had a meeting last week with one of our coaches and mentors about some potential real estate investment opportunities. The education arm, Legacy Real Estate Consultant, is really my baby. I pull him in, when I can. He's the kind of person, like, we're night and day. You see me any and everywhere. That's not him. But when I need him to be somewhere, he will. I'm coaching a young man right now that's under 30 that wants to get into real estate investing. We've been on a 3-month coaching swing, and every Sunday morning at 11 we're on a Zoom. Sometimes my husband will pop his head in, and just pour into this young man. So the education piece is really my baby, but what I'm working on, I mentioned earlier, is just documenting what we've learned. So I just launched my third journal this weekend on Amazon. It's the Landlord, the Real Estate Gratitude Journal. It's a 90 days of daily practice of setting real estate goals, holding yourself accountable, inspirational quotes to motivate you, and expressing gratitude about where you are in your journey, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned investor. Figuring out what your future goals are. You can find it on Amazon. I'm really excited about it. Again, real estate gratitude journal, right? Because we're in this space. We've been blessed to even have the knowledge about the value of real estate, and then to make the sacrifice to invest in the real estate. What are our goals, and what can we be thankful for, and how can we pay it forward, right? So that's what this journal is about. I'm excited. I'm working on a 4th book with the help of my book coach, Mr. Jerome Lewis, is helping me out. So that's what I'm working on, documenting so that other folks can have what's between my ears, and I can memorialize it before I'm out of here.
Yeah, and that's a great legacy. And I would say that, looking at, your life and your husband, it speaks volumes to planning, right? Right. You did not get here by accident. Right. You planned, you sacrificed, you executed.
Yep.
It's not brain surgery, right? But just I feel like most people don't want to take those steps, right? They don't want to create the plan. Then a lot of people, this is where a lot of people do get caught up too. They don't want to sacrifice, right? And they think like, oh, I can have it all. It's almost that generally does. That's not how that generally works. You have to sacrifice something, right? And then you have to execute. So I love seeing it. I know you love the bike and do all those things. It's just awesome because it just lets me know that, if you stay on the path, and you have that plan, that you can, end up with that life that most people only dream of. So,
Absolutely.
that's super awesome. So is there anything else that can you let everybody know kind of where to follow you, everything else that you have going on, all of your, everything going on with LL Docs?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at LLDOCS30. That's LLDOCS30 on Instagram. And on Facebook, Kim.Babb, BABB, I think it's 7798 on Facebook. Kim.BABB.7798 on Facebook. But just Google me. I'm here, moving and shaking around. I'm excited. This weekend, You mentioned that I cycle, I play tennis because movement is medicine. One of my lifetime goals is to run in all 50 states and on all the continents. And this weekend, I'll be running my 40th state in Chicago, Illinois.
Nice.
So I'm
Very nice.
excited about that. I'll be walking. I'm not a runner. I walk and jog, but whatever. Yeah, so I'll be doing my 40th state this Saturday, prayerfully. And you can go to my website, www.lldocs30.com, and just take a look at all of our products. We have created digital property management documents for you. You don't have to go to Staples to buy a lease. We have leases, applications, we have bundles for you so you can, hit the ground running with managing your real estate and investments. And also all of our journals are there as well. And I'm available for coaching, training, and pouring into the community.
What's the website again?
www.lldocs30.com.
Got it. All right.
And that's really the acronym for our Landlord Docs 30 property management bundle. That's where that comes from. Yeah, Landlord Docs 30.
Just so everybody knows, I mean, who should be going to this site? Who should be getting documents from off of this site? Like, who is this for? Is this for the beginner? Is this for the intermediate? This is for the person that's been in the game for a while?
This is for everybody. This is for aspiring investors. This is for newbie investors, intermediate investors, and just advanced investors. And I say that because I coach all of them, all of the above.
Yeah.
And, I've coached investors who've been managing their rental properties for 30 years and don't have systems in place. So it's really for everybody.
Yeah. Well, with a 40-year eviction-free track record, you're in a place to actually show people how to get those things done. Kim, this has been excellent. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do for Bragg. I appreciate everything that you do for a ton of people out there. We all see you, and we definitely appreciate you. And look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at the Bragg meeting. It's absolutely free. There's no reason. There's no excuse why you shouldn't be there. Go over to at Bragg Investors and check this meeting out and learn how to be a landlord with skills. Get that skill set. All right. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
I'll talk to you
Thanks
later
so much, Dan. I'll see you on Wednesday.
See you then.